What is going on, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another episode of the Kingdom Says. I am your host, as always, Garrett Williams. Tonight, I am joined by two very fine gentlemen. First of all, we've got one of the usual co-hosts of the show, Mr. Kyle Henning. How are we doing tonight, Kyle?
Oh, a little bit better than the last time everybody saw me. And I'm back in my correct side of the screen in my right spot. Garrett was not with me on, what was that, Monday when I got to sit down with Mr. Matt Verderam for a little bit. So back over here where I belong. Voice is probably a little stronger today than it was in the Monday episode. Getting ready for the weekend, man. It's close. This week feels like it has taken add being sick into this being Super Bowl week, and it has been an extraordinarily long wait. So I'm ready to go. I'm sure the players are by this point too. So
Oh yeah, and also ready to go. Joining us tonight in place of Mr. Arrowhead Tom, who cannot make it tonight, we've got the one and only co-host of Chief Concerns, former NFL tight end for the Eagles and the Chiefs, Jason Dunn. How we doing tonight, JD?
What's up, fellas? How y'all doing, man? How y'all doing?
We're doing fantastic, especially now that you're here.
Well, good, man. I'm glad I can make y'all feel that way, man. It's always good to come and join you all. Y'all do a great job anyway, man. Tell Tom I said what's up. He was one of the guys that came out there to Ortego Pizza.
Yeah.
Sat down with me, man. And I told him, I said, I need to get that episode out, man. It was such a great time just sitting with those guys and kind of chopping it up a little bit about the kingdom. But, man, I appreciate you guys having me, really.
Yeah, it's always an absolute honor to have you on the show, obviously, because you're just a wealth of insight and knowledge, obviously playing in the league for many years, and now your post-career, which is doing the awesome work that you and Marcus are doing over at Chiefs Concerns. Just another great season from you guys. Got to get a tip of the cap and say you guys over there do a lot of really good work. You and Marcus are a really good tag team over there at Chiefs Concerns, and yeah, just a really like one of the best.
I know he's in there some with you guys. Marcus, that's Marcus's brother, right?
Yeah, all these. Yeah.
Tasia comes on.
Yep.
Yeah,
he's been holding it down too. Yeah, you guys are one of the best, most receptive, easiest to listen to, friendly, Chiefs podcasts out there. So appreciate you spending time with us tonight, obviously.
Well, thank you for saying so, man. Thank you for saying so. We try to give, a lot of some of that goodness to the kingdom, trying to get a, good glimpse into what the guys do, but also too from a former player, how it is and how we kind of feel on the field and in the locker room, how it is in the game, the thought process. I think all those things are important, to try to give it insight. But more importantly, I think what we do is try to provide somewhat of a family atmosphere when people come in and kind of talk and speak. And I just had to tell you guys, man, I commend you guys for actually, man, for all your support that you do. So we appreciate you so much, man, Kyle and Garrett, and like I said, Tom, I appreciate you guys, definitely.
Yeah, that's one of the more unique parts about your guys' show is a lot of people interact with stuff with the comments, but you just really take the time to make sure that you get through and get to pretty much everybody that hops in and talks with you and comments with you. So that's if you guys haven't, if you've only caught the VODs or the podcast version of Chief Concerns, the live getting in there when it's live is a good fun time. You make sure you get the little bell on the little YouTube page. It'll tell you when they pop online. You can always hop in, even if you can only hop in for a few minutes and talk with them. They're always there to chat. So I enjoy that part quite a bit. I try to hop in when I can. I don't make it every night on the lives, but I try to hop in when I can. So
well, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. And we try to acknowledge everybody that comes in. We do. Yeah. That's one thing we love about it. We love, for me, like I'm a fan of everybody that comes in. I'm like, yo, what's going on? If you just happens to come in saying hi, like I appreciate it. Just like you said, just sticking your head in and saying what's up. It's like a real quick, like, hey, here I am. Good to see you. Yeah. Just jump out. So
definitely,
yeah. That's why you're the GOAT for real. That's why you and Marcus and all everything y'all do. You are great. So yeah, let's talk a little Chiefs tonight. Obviously, very big week that we are very familiar to now at this point in Chiefs Kingdom. Super Bowl week, facing the Philadelphia Eagles once again after having played them only a couple years ago in Super Bowl 57. Before we kind of get into this week in this game, Jason, since it's been a minute since we've talked to you, quickly, I want to just take a step back. Chiefs 2024 season, quite a crazy season, going 15-2, a lot of ups and downs with injuries and just a lot of different movement around all different positions, offense and defense. obviously leading into another successful playoff run. What was your kind of biggest takeaway this season from the Chiefs and how they fought and how they kind of persevered through a lot of the struggles that we really haven't seen from them in this dynasty so far?
Man, I think you said it. I think it's perseverance, it's resiliency, and so for them, each and every game presented maybe a different problem that they had to go through. Right, whether it was guy being hurt each and every week, if somebody Rashid Rice gets hurt, and Hollywood Brown the very first of the season. We decided to get D-Hop to bring him in and that helped, our offense strive. The reemergence of Kareem Hunt, right?
Yeah.
Coming back home. I mean, we're talking about this is kind of a soap opera story of a season for the team. It really has been. And so some of those things, good side of offensively, seeing Joe Tooney move out to tackle and just do a tremendous job as he has. I still don't think he's get the type of credit that he should in the NFL, that nobody talks enough about it. Everybody wants to bring up the referees, right? That's another silly conspiracy situation. But for me, the things that the guy's been able to achieve in the face of adversity has been nothing but more than this exceptional. And also, too, on the defensive side of the ball, right? Let's go to that side. Jalen Watson getting hurt, Snead not necessarily being there. Who's going to be the guy that's going to be able to come in and fit up in that position? And so we've seen some young guys, emergence of like Najee Johnson, Joshua Williams. At the first of the season, we didn't know where he was, right? Last year, we could say he was probably one of the guys that was going to be the replacer of Jerry Snead, right? And so it's been kind of up and down for him. He's kind of found his way, kind of getting back. We see some young safeties come up, right? And Hicks, right? Jamari Coleman's been doing a tremendous job. The one stellar thing that we see on defense has been for the past 3 years is our guy, Trent McDuffie, who's been shutting everybody down and just been taking names while he's doing it. And so not only that, we had to go to the defensive line. Obviously, we've been talking about George Karlaftis coming in toward the end of the year. Charles Menahu coming back. We didn't think he was going to be back this early. He's come back and been able to give, what he could give. And he's done a tremendous job of doing that. And then we had to talk about Chris Jones. Chris Jones, man, he's just been just important in everything that we do. Chris always shows up in the games when you need him because we can do that, right? He always warrants having 2 or 3 guys on him. Why? Because he's just the best in the league. And so kind of with that, we see Mike Pennell and obviously Turk Warrington doing a great job. FAU's come in and giving something. And our guy, Mike Dana, has been tremendous the entire way. So that, for me, is what we've seen, Garrett and Kyle, this year. For me, it's been such a storybook, like I said before, of a season to accumulate to where we are right now, really vying for a three-peat and setting NFL history. So
that the soap opera almost aspect of it, the way that, especially with some of the guys that there were at least one of them was not supposed to be back, according to most of the beat guys. With Jalen Watson, there was a lot of skepticism on him even being able to make a return this year with when he got hurt and how he got hurt. With it being multiple injuries, not only was it the broken ankle, but it was also the high ankle sprain to go with it. So he had to have the tightrope to go with the other surgery to have that fixed. The filling in, I think you highlighted, I think there's 2 guys that don't get the credit they deserve league-wide, Joe Tooney being one and Chris Jones being the other. You barely hear Chris's name mentioned for the Defensive Player of the Year stats. And it's crazy because if you look at all the same metrics that they used to use to make Aaron Donald this unbelievable hero, it's the same exact numbers now for Chris. And
Big
it's
double
like
team rates, all the pressures.
And it's just kind of, well, he doesn't have the sacks. Well, neither did Aaron Donald for a lot of those years, but you gave him the award based on reputation alone. Like, you legitimately, the same numbers. He's just as far to the top right of every single one of those double team plus win rate charts. He's the same. He moves around the defense more than Aaron Donald did. He lines up outside. He also, as opposed to what he could do, which is always just pick the weak, easy matchup, a lot of the times he takes the best guy and leaves some of the other guys one-on-one with lesser guys so that they can win. George has had a couple of huge games. He's like what is he, second in Chiefs sacks in the history of the playoffs now because
Yeah,
of,
he's already pretty high up there. Yeah.
and he's got more postseason sacks than a lot of your favorite defensive player of the year candidates every year, because one, they're in the playoffs a lot more than most of those teams, and two,
That does help.
he performs in the playoffs. And it is what's one of those things where this is everybody talks about Mahomes and everybody talks about Andy and everybody talks about Travis, but this is a full unit, both sides of the ball. It was evident last year, I think, with the receivers that it was more of a full unit game than it is just a couple of players game. But this year, I think even more so has highlighted the overall, this is a full team sport. We talked about three phases a lot this year, where special teams has made play after play after play after play, whether it was the Broncos block, whether it's the Nico Remigio kick returns, whether it was another point after block, whether it's Justin Reed getting the Buffalo Bills to take points off the board because the refs accidentally called him offsides when he wasn't.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's all kinds of things that these teams, the details, it's the little stuff and the next man up mentality that it gets cliche and old, as this team has pretty much highlighted what that looks like this year, every step of the way. So,
right. They have taken on, without a doubt, embodiment of a champion, okay, in every respect. Warriors, just fighting through adversity. And like you said, whether you go to offense, defense, Chris Jones, what he's been going through, and I think a lot of people just kind of throw their hands up like, well, we expect this out of Chris Jones, right? So why even nominating for Defensive Player of the Year? We're looking just for numbers in itself, right? Well, shoot, raw numbers like you said, if he's getting double to triple team, I think it's the level of difficulty that you had to measure him on. Okay. So we understand his win rate against double teams, man, is phenomenal. How you not recognize those things. And so I think sometimes they get lost in that whole conversation of just numbers and, oh, he has how many sacks. Well, what does that mean? How many guys are going against Garrett Wilson? Ain't going against two or three guys each and every play on every snap. Not taking the thing with Garrett Wilson because he's an incredible defensive end, right? Same thing, TJ Watt and all the other guys you want to speak about. But Chris Jones, without a doubt, I think everybody kind of recognizes he's the best in the league and what he does. And so I don't think there's any question about that. And then you was talking about, like, as well, Nico Remigio, his emergence now. Oh, my gosh. Here's a guy that, because of who we had on the roster in those positions, really wasn't seeing the field. He was on a practice squad. And so he was a guy we didn't think was going to, is he going to make the team or is not going to make the team? And so he didn't make the last cuts, but we get him on practice squad. All of a sudden he gets his chance and opportunity, and he shows exactly what he can do and why he's here, right? Which the Chiefs is having the luxury of having somebody like Nico Remigio if they come in and see him just blow everything out the water. It's like, man, this is what makes the Chiefs so great, right? You got great guys in waiting their opportunity to actually show what they can do.
It's a big mentality thing. It's like it starts from the top, and that's how it's why the secret to the success of this dynasty is because all the way from the very top, it's Andy Reid and it's Clark Hunt and Brett Veach and Patrick Mahomes, and like it just the leadership, the mentality that these guys show, the vigor and the courage and the support that they show, and all the little guys. It was like Nico Remigio talked about it on the interview he did, where in the Buffalo game he had the first punt return that he fair caught, and Kelsey told him, he was like, hey, that's not being great, and then Nico took that one to heart for sure and went out there and balled out on that next return. It's crazy how this team has just shaped into such an animal of professionalism and just all about their business. They're so clean and efficient, and they're all about football. We've heard some guys like it was interesting. We heard from Peyton Hendershot, I saw on an interview where he was talking about the comparisons between Dallas and the Chiefs, where it's just, no shots at Dallas, but he came to the Chiefs and it was just all football, all professional, all just business. Like there was no other silly extracurricular things going on, and that's just the difference that the whole organization has for the Chiefs. It's also very interesting, like you said, when you mentioned like the storybook aspect of this season, you know, the three-peat always seemed pretty real, like, especially going from last year when, you know, they're on stage at the Super Bowls already saying like, hey, we're going for a third one, you know, like obviously they were very determined. But if you would have showed if you would have showed Chiefs fan the roster that's going into this next Super Bowl, they would probably not believe you, you know, highlighted by guys like Kareem Hunt and DeAndre Hopkins and Xavier Worthy is your wide receiver one, and just all the different aspects of, you know, Joe Tooney is your left tackle. It's like such a wild, it's you almost like it's beyond a storybook. It's like a fairy tale where it's like you couldn't even make some of this stuff up. And yet the Chiefs have found ways throughout it all to just keep on winning, keep on doing the little things, the little details of things that just they put them over the edge. You know, it's not big flashy wins. They're not winning by 15, 20 points and blowing guys out, but they're doing exactly what they need to do, especially in the fourth quarter. And they're winning those important clutch moments that, you know, that's what championship teams are decided by. You know, that's the type of things that you see that makes the difference between people who have been there before and been in these situations and people who have not. And we've seen that happen time and time again, especially in this playoff run.
Buddy, I'm on record very loudly. I didn't think there was a way on planet Earth you would see Kareem Hunt wearing a Chiefs jersey again. The way everything went, the way all of that happened, Andy's big on second chances and whatnot, and some of those guys are. But Clark Hunt, when you have stuff that happens, and the owner, like an owner like that, gets made to look a certain way publicly because of the way things go and the way things have happened, I didn't think there was any way on the planet that he was coming back here. And for them to for Clark to say no, if you believe in him, if you believe he's done what he needs to do and he's atoned and everything, then you make that call and you do that stuff. And they've done it, and he's come in and been every bit of everything that he appeared to be after he made the mistake and dealt with all of the stuff that he had to deal with from that perspective. Patrick still having him as part of the wedding, and then the stuff that Patrick has talked about how close they are and how important Kareem is to him. All of those things. Plus, that adds a development layer, and Jason may be able to talk to this. The guys that haven't been there, that don't have that ring, that don't have that in their pocket already, gives a little more of that hunger and a little more of that fire and a little more of that focus to maybe guys that have been there, or the guys that don't know anything other than going to the Super Bowl in their entire NFL careers, like there are like 2 or 3 full draft classes for this Chiefs team now. It's a complete unit of guys that have been there that still want more, guys that have never been there that want it bad, and especially with Kareem, that feeds into a little more of that soap opera conversation that Jason had. There's not a person on that roster that wants to bring this home more than he does, for a redemption story for himself, and so he can say he was part of one of the teams to bring one home to Kansas City. Because you could tell, I remember that video of the policeman with the Cleveland. I'll remember that video forever. You could hear it in his voice. You could see it in his face. He was just so upset with what had happened and what he wanted to do and where he felt he was supposed to be. And watching him, and then Garrett mentions the Peyton Hendershot stuff. Like, winning is the thing here. All the other stuff is the other stuff.
Yeah.
Winning is the thing here, and that is not, as Peyton highlighted, the case everywhere.
No, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. A lot of it goes into what this organization is all about, right? What they've done is they have fortified and they have nurtured a culture of not just success and winning, but also too having empathy for guys being in certain positions. Without a doubt, Kareem Hunt being one of them. And I think because he showed a lot of contrition for what he did wrong, sometimes heals, as the old saying goes, time heals all things, right? And so this was a wound that needed to be healed. And I think this is something to help right the ship. And so when he had a chance and opportunity to get back here to the Chiefs, I think the Chiefs took it upon themselves like, hey, look, you know what? This guy has paid his dues. There's a lot of guys still here that love him. We love him because he cut his teeth here, right? And so for them, it just made sense. And so when some of your brothers are hurting or they're suffering, you go to their help. right? And so, like you said, he stayed in contact with all his boys, and he felt that the pain of not being able to be with his guys when they're all enjoying and salivating themselves after the wins, after these Super Bowls, and he knew because of his the mistake that he did, he wasn't able to enjoy it, and so I'm glad he's there for that redemption story, Kyle. I really am. But also, too, let's talk about D Hop as well. D Hop was sitting there talking about how other teams just, basically, gave up on him. He felt like he was just being shifted around, was like really no place to go, really. He's going to place, and these teams ain't really serious about winning.
So
And
he's
he
falling
said,
out of love with the game.
yeah, he said, man, when I came here, you could feel it. You could see it. You could see how everybody walked around, how different it was from other places. And look, I've played for two teams. Fortunately, in the NFL, the two teams was Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, the Eagles wasn't what they are today that I dealt with, and they had to grow into something else different. But Kansas City has always been that way. It's always been a top-notch organization and people there in the building. And a lot of it had to do with the Hunt family, who they wanted to bring in, the founder of the visionary of Lamar Hunt, who he wanted his people to be. When I'm telling you, Lamar Hunt was a guy that came down the locker room. He asked how your family was doing. He knew who was your mom, your dad, your brothers and sisters, what your ventures were during the off season. He knew everything about you because how much they invested in you. And so what they did, they carried it over for other guys coming into here. So when everybody talks about organizations in the NFL where you want to go to, the Kansas City Chiefs is the top one in the league that comes on everybody's on their tongue, right? So I do believe that everybody learns how to make adjustments in Kansas City. We was just talking about it, Joe Tooney coming here, then somebody gets hurt, somebody else steps up. Well, that's what it's all about. Andy Reid, Brett Veach, and all those guys had to see it. People get on Brett Veach. Oh, we don't like Brett Veach, what he does. But sure, you just seen him bring guys in here who's just been winning.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there thinking, like, how can you be upset with a guy who's been winning Super Bowls with the people he's been bringing in here? How can you be upset with that? Well, I mean, what else? What is the measure? What's the barometer?
Yeah. What else
Perfection.
Huh?
What is it? We're to the point now. There's the best way. Shout out our friend Nate Taylor over at Only Weird Games and KCSN. There was a term that they started using probably a year and a half or two ago. It's Tuscaloosa fan. They expect perfection. Every draft pick has to be the best player that has ever been drafted at that position. Every free agent has to be a all-pro contributor. Every deal you do has to be exactly how they want you to do it, or you're not doing a good enough job. Not the guy's put together 5 of 6 Super Bowl teams in a row. Not that he's rebuilt a line twice out of thin air. Not that he's completely revamped a defense by trading away a receiver they said that would be the end of this organization that is by far, they've won 2 Super Bowls and are looking for a third one without him, who does nothing but talk about how he would rather be here than where he currently is, even if he won't say it out loud. Like, we've reached the point where the newer fans, and this is, I don't care when you became a fan of this team. I don't care. Be a fan, whatever. But a lot of the newer fans are so spoiled with what has happened with this organization and aren't used to certain things. They didn't watch Brody Croyle play quarterback for a year and a half. They didn't watch no shots at Tyler Thigpen, but Tyler Thigpen play quarterback. I remember the roster with Brady Quinn on it at one point. Like there's a lot of things. I can go back even farther. Jason Anderson had Rich Gannon on today. Back in the Elvis Gerback, Rich Gannon quarterback controversy days, a lot of folks don't remember. I know Jason does, but a lot of folks don't remember that, where they sat Rich down for Elvis after Elvis came back from injury, which still rubs a lot of wounds in some Chiefs fans that are of the older variety that remember some of those days. They don't have those memories and those things to reference and pull back to, and a lot of the rest of us are like, hey yo, it could be a lot worse. There could be 2-14 Todd Haley, Romeo Crennel days, guys. Like, it could be that again. It
Yes.
could be we win a whole season with like Dwayne Bowe was it at
Yeah.
anything
Yeah.
as far as like so a lot of it is that. I think a lot of that when it comes to Brett is that. But also like at this point in today's era with social media and everything, it's a get it right business, and if you don't get it right every time, somebody's gonna say you shouldn't be doing your job. So it's part
Crazy.
of it, but it's why shows like yours and what we try to do here, and there's a lot of good content that in this space, especially in the Chiefs space,
Yeah.
where people try to do a really good job of highlighting like, hey, this is different. This is what it's supposed to look like. This is how you build organizations. Now, there are obviously some shows and stuff out there that
Hmm.
feed into the engagement and run the clicks and do the stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you want honest, good, and we've talked on this show, I'm not happy with every single thing that's been done. I'm also not ever going to sit there and call for the man's job because of it.
Right.
But like,
Yeah.
and you can also be critical of certain things without killing guys.
Absolutely.
It's not a mutually exclusive deal. And
Right.
you know, it's part of the deal where you have to have a way to look at these things through a lens that isn't one singular focus, the one
Mhm.
singular thing, and if it doesn't agree with what I'm thinking, it's not right, and then there's somebody should be punished for it.
Yeah.
And that's where I think we've lost where a lot of that stuff comes from that you talk
Yeah.
about, where we talk about with that kind of craziness. But
Mhm.
for the most part, Chiefs Kingdom understands and knows what it looks like, and knows that this stuff is a special time frame. And I've seen a lot more of the good than the bad. It's just always, the bad actors are usually the loudest. So
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
what it is.
Well, it is that the narrow lens of things, and so I remember maybe it was last week. There was a young Chiefs fan, female. I think she was from Iowa or somewhere, and she was just like, "Yeah, I'm done with the Chiefs because the refs are cheating for the." I was
I
like,
still don't know if she was a Chiefs fan or not, but
yeah,
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
yeah, right. And she's like, "I've been a fan since Alex Smith." I'm like, "Hello, listen, I get
Clocking out at a bad time. Like, hey.
I wish I had the luxury to
Right?
only be here for Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes taking
Right.
over for him to watch the success over the years. But this is not the norm in the NFL. I'm sorry. Like, you had to understand, like, the long suffering, okay, of Chiefs fans over the years, okay? So if you don't get it, and I understand you want to voice your opinion, but please have a heart for everybody else who has been doing this for a long time, who has had to rip up their whatever it is and stand out in the cold for a number of years out there and watch it. Have a heart for the guy that was in the no punt uh, uh, playoff game. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
just missed out. Right? I mean, and I kind of had to. You almost had to laugh a little bit because I'm just like, man, people just don't get it. Like,
Well,
shoot.
Kevin Harlan, 50 years, a lifetime. Like that's a call from 5 years, like 6 years ago. Like, it's not this is not that far removed from a fan base that spent more than my lifetime suffering.
Yeah.
So it's
pretty
crazy.
dramatic. There definitely is a good amount of fans that are just don't really realize how crazy and unique what we're witnessing here in Kansas City. I've seen on Twitter recently of like people criticizing like, oh man, Isaiah Pacheco and Najee Johnson, like not great picks. And it's like, brother, those are seventh rounders. Like, those are home runs for seventh round picks.
You are getting starting contributing play from pick 250 whatever.
Yeah.
And that doesn't count. Kirk Wharton was undrafted.
Yes.
There are undrafted free agents on this roster that are major contributors to this team.
Yes. Absolutely.
That doesn't happen. That only happens in organizations that scout well, that know what they're looking for, know what players fit their systems, and then their coaching staff gets the best out of them. Period.
Right. Role players. That's it. Role players. Like, if you got to know and have, like I said, a vision before for the role players to say, look, this guy could come here. He can play. We need a guy like this. Right. Yep. And then you watch it just kind of bear it out. I don't know, man. We have a saying here in Kentucky. I mean, it's just like, bless your heart. Right. Even think of that, man. Seriously. So, that's okay. So I just, It's funny.
Hey, we'll just keep doing our duty of showing everybody, hey, it's actually pretty good times, and we're in a pretty successful organization with a really competent folks running the business. Because if you compare around the league, you start to realize quick that this is very uncommon. If you really just break it down a little more, there are some organizations that unfortunately will probably be dumpster fires forever. Probably
you can look through them and they're pretty easy to spot. Are they paying 4 coaches to be their head coach while 3 of them are not coaching that football team? Well, that's probably not good. Are they paying multiple GMs to not be their GM? Well, that's probably not good. Do they have player after player requesting a trade out of their city? Probably not great. Like all of those things, like there's time after time and thing after thing, and it's a totally different world. And I think the other part is a lot of people, well, the Patriots did it forever, and now the Chiefs are doing it. It can't be that hard. Yeah, those are not normal organizations. These are not normal things at all.
So let me talk about that real quick, okay? Because I was having a conversation on our show with Frank Minifield. Okay, many played DB, the one that started the dog pound, watched a ton of ball. One of the guys we were talking about, I don't think we got to talk about him much on the show, was Bill Belichick. Okay, Bill Belichick was his head coach, and Minnie talks about how Belichick really, he said, man, I don't understand how guys were able to listen to him. He just couldn't understand. He said, this was probably my darkest time. This is me talking, right? I'm giving y'all some little bit behind the scenes what we were talking about. He said, this was the dark time of my career where Bill Belichick came over to Cleveland and kind of just ran us into the ground because the way he was able to he treated guys and how guys responded. So here you had this dude that came in, was dog cussing different ones and just tell you different things, and everybody was looking at him like he was crazy. Well, guess what? All of a sudden, he goes up there to New England, okay? He has a Drew Bledsoe, and guess who comes in? A Tom Brady, right? And he was, without a doubt, a benefactor of a guy that had a drive in him who always wanted to win. The odds were just against him. So he had somebody who innately, to himself, wanted to be a champion and a winner, right? Who comes in and talks about, you want to take Drew Bledsoe's job, right? After being, I forgot what it was, a 7th round pick, maybe Tom Brady, maybe ran like a 6'5", 40, right? 10-inch vertical.
Yeah.
Peak physical athlete.
Not a combine monster. Not a combine monster.
By no means, right? At all.
Yeah.
Bill sees him, pulls him in, and guess what? Wins a lot of championships. Well, so then the question came into, well, who's it? Who's the one? Is it Bill or is it Tom? Well, Tom goes to Tampa, wins another Super Bowl. Bill, organization goes down in flames, right?
Coaching at North Carolina.
Yeah, that's where he's at now. Yeah.
Right. So I'm just saying, I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. But maybe it wasn't necessarily Bill Belichick in a sense, right?
Yeah.
I went up there before the end, and when I was a free agent, I went into Bill Belichick and talked to him, Charlie Weiss and all those guys, right? And met him and whatnot.
There's the name.
Oh my goodness. Hey, look. And then found out, like, look, I didn't want to go there, came back here to the Chiefs. Well, all that saying, they try to bring the Patriot way to Kansas City, right? We're going to do everything the Patriot way and this and that. Complete and utter disaster. Complete disaster.
Yeah.
How they was doing things.
That's a common theme.
It is.
Yeah.
His guys would go to other places, Patricia and all of tanked it. Those things didn't work. But I will tell you somebody, okay, that went into organizations that actually changed them around. Because I was with one of them before I left out to Kansas City, and that's Andy Reid. Andy Reid changed the entire culture and scope up there with Philadelphia Eagles, okay? I'm telling you, the year before he got in, I don't even know what we were, bro. I think we was another one of those losing seasons. Like it just felt like it was rain every single day in Philadelphia. Not to mention how sometimes the fans get on you, right? Love it up there in Philly. But them jokers can make it hard for you to live and play up there. They really can. When they run out Iverson and Barkley, you know how hard it could be in the right? Stephen A was in the locker room, so you can tell how that was. But he comes not just from there, taking them to the promised land and winning NFC championships and getting all the way to the end, to coming out to Kansas City. He comes out here, does the exact same thing, changes the culture around. Okay, the guys are willing to play for him. He changes how everybody's thinking about the game. He changes how everybody's thinking about what it means to be a Kansas City Chiefs. And so one of the guys that that was my coach was Dick Vermeil. Dick Vermeil see this. He's like, take the job. How about that? Andy, take the job, because it's a great organization. Match made in heaven. He comes here and all of a sudden, here we are. Here we are. So just kind of talking about like cultures and whatnot that you just, you try to, nurture, okay? And you just get, Andy Reid has been that guy. He's done it with two teams. That ain't just an anomaly. And so this is a guy that understands what it takes.
Oh, yeah.
He knows how to get the guys in here to make the right decisions. He knows how to motivate guys when they're playing. And they love him for it. So for me, because we were talking about these things aren't normal, right? But Andy Reid has a formula. He has a culture. He knows what to do to bring guys in. And so, hey, man, we could sit there and talk about Patrick Mahomes coming, being able to see him, because we heard all the bad things who Patrick Mahomes was. I hear that. I can't. There was the dude that's on Fox News, the one that was the analyst goes in Fox News as a political guy now. Will. Yeah. He goes in, he's unathletic, he's undisciplined, all those things. And I hear that.
Crazy stuff.
Oh, yeah. So, dude.
It's a pretty crazy conversation. Yeah, the Andy Reid definitely Mount Rushmore coach, and obviously has proven it in multiple organizations, lift him up, and and also, look around his coaching staff and his coaching tree, very successful. You got like Sean McDermott's and John Harbaugh's, and just Doug
they got trophies and rings and winning organizations.
Definitely two different kind of approaches to greatness as far as coaching.
Right, yeah. Doug Peterson. Let's go, Dougie P. Like who do we need to, right? So.
Yeah, pretty wild, pretty fortunate spot that Chiefs Kingdom is in with the people that we have in the building. Let's pivot to the game now. Chiefs Kingdom, the big game is right around the corner, and there's no better way to get in on the action than our friends at Underdog. Underdog is the place to play if you're a fan looking to cash in on all of your favorite athletes' performances. It's available in over 30 states, including Missouri, California, and Texas. Just call your shot by picking higher or lower on 2 or more players' stats for a shot to win real money. Here's some of our picks for the big game. And for this weekend's festivities, Underdog is celebrating by giving all users, both new and existing customers, a no-sweat entry, which means you either cash in or you get your entry fee back in bonus credit. There will also be a Travis Kelce free pick for every new customer who signs up on Underdog before the game. So come join the fun on Underdog and sign up using our code KINGDOMSAYS to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit, and a free pick. Once again, that is code KINGDOMSAYS, thanks to our friends at Underdog. Let's pivot to the game now, get to the Super Bowl. Obviously, Eagles, very familiar team. We've seen them a lot. Actually, this whole year, they've had a really incredible run. Obviously, adding Saquon Barkley, having A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert and all those crazy weapons, and then their defense, number 1 defense in the league, having Vic Fangio in there and all that good stuff. Definitely going to be a hell of a matchup. Definitely no doubt about it. Hell of a matchup. On the offensive side, JD, a couple just key points that you're looking at for the Chiefs going into that game versus the Eagles. Like I said, number 1 defense. Probably one of the biggest things that we've had to talk about this past few weeks have been the offensive line and the changes there, and how that's approach has affected the run game and the different ways they've changed up the pass game, getting a little bit quicker and whatnot in that instance. What are a couple main keys for you, JD, for the offense going into the Super Bowl versus the Eagles?
For me, man, I said this actually last game, and it's definitely a factor in this game that is the most imperative thing is the line of scrimmage, this offensive line. Those in the trenches is where the game is going to be won, right? And so when we talk about it, obviously this defense, because of the things that they do, Vic got those guys playing at a high level. You got to protect Patrick Mahomes. Number two, you got to make sure our running backs have a chance to eat in this game. Kareem Hunt, especially. Isaiah Pacheco, let him come in, and it'd just be a nice mix between those two. And then we talk about how you attack this defense. Well, they got some young corners out there. I say we test them out. Let's test their mettle. Let's go up top deep right off the bat. Why not? Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown. That's the reason we brought him in here. We wanted speed. We got speed, and speed kills. And so I say this all the time. The Philadelphia Eagles haven't seen an offense like we got. I'm sorry, they haven't.
No.
They just have not. And so we can be truthful about it. And then we talk about Travis Kelce, best tight end in the NFL. So what do you do with that? So when you try to contend against those guys, and then Patrick Mahomes, the greatest ever. So I think in this conversation, once he wins this one, how you deny him as being the greatest ever, right? Seriously.
Yeah. Well, they'll try.
No, well, yeah, they'll try.
Yeah.
I'll say for me, on my own personal opinion, Pat, he'll be that guy. He's that guy for me. So I think offensively, man, what you have to do is you got to roam the middle. You got to make sure that you got to attack, like I said, the corners. You can't be scared of them, but you got to make them play. You got to make them play. Make them open up their hips, get out of their breaks. Make sure you attack them. With that, I think that's the middle is wide open. But if you start opening up some of those lanes, let Kareem Hunt eat a little bit. Let him just go in. Look, let him get 3 yards of carry. I looked at it. Every time you get 3 yards of carry, that 4 times, he's going to be 12 yards. This is the first down each and every time that you get it, right? I mean, just do the math. So I think you do those things. Give a chance, because I think Vic Fangio's, what he's going to do is probably sit 7 back in zone, and just hope Pat makes a mistake. And then let 4 eat, let them hit home. So Pat's going to have to use his legs, but also, too, I think he's just going to, just be magic like he always is. Don't do more than what he needs to do. Don't try to force anything, man. Just manage the game. That's all Pat needs to do. And so that's the hardest thing for Vic Fangio is you got to deal with contend with a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes. He's 0-9 against Pat?
Yeah, it's not been good.
Yeah, never. Yeah, he's never been able to conquer Pat Mahomes. Yeah.
Well, and I think hearing you talk about that highlights was going to be kind of one of my questions, but I think you just kind of answered it there. Mm-hmm. That I don't think they're going to change who they are as a defense, especially because I don't think you really can. A lot of teams, there's always a lot of conversation about, well, you just change this because of who you're playing against. Well, that's awesome on the theory board. It's a lot less simple in practice, and the Eagles have one of the lowest blitz rates in the entire National Football League. They don't blitz.
No.
They're like, I think 28th or something in blitz rate. I think they're like 18% or something like that in blitz rate. That's fine, because blitzing Patrick Mahomes will usually get you carved up like a turkey. The problem is they play a lot of zone, which will also get you shredded when you're playing Patrick Mahomes, because zone coverage, he has the best zone beater on the planet playing tight end for him.
That's right.
And we've seen the Travis Kelce Oren Burks matchup literally last year in the Super Bowl, because Oren Burks is who came in for Dre Greenlaw when Dre Greenlaw popped his Achilles in the middle of that game. And then as soon as Dre Greenlaw came in the game, came out of the game and Oren Burks was in, they spam buttoned Travis Kelce against Oren Burks over and over, and there was nothing anybody could do about it.
Right.
And so, those two things and the success rate that Kareem Hunt has enjoyed this year as the running back, he's always going to get you at least a yard more than what he was supposed to get you. So if he's supposed to get you 2, it's 3. If he's going to get you 3, it's 4 or more. Mm-hmm. It's just a recipe for them to attack this defense in a way that you mentioned they haven't seen an offense like this. And it's not even necessarily the weaponry.
Yeah. There's
not a quarterback in the NFC that's near him.
No.
As far as quarterbacks are concerned.
No.
There just isn't. I mean, the most dangerous one from a passing perspective in the NFC is probably Matt Stafford. And they played him in the snow for the second half, and that kind of threw off that, or that may not have ended as well as it did for the Eagles.
Right.
So there's a lot of talk about the defensive line, specifically Jalen Carter, I was a little more apprehensive, but listening to you and listening to Matt Verderam and a couple others talk about, one, he usually lines up over Trey Smith, not Caliendo.
Right.
That's Trey, make your money, big fella. That's what they pay. That's what you're looking to get paid for this offseason.
Yeah, Calendo's going to have Mike Williams or Milton Williams on.
Milton
on
Williams
that
is probably
yeah,
going to be on the other
another
side.
young stud,
Milton Williams is a solid player.
Yeah.
He's very good. He doesn't scare me like Jalen Carter does. He just doesn't.
Right.
So those are that's kind of what I was wondering, was if you thought they would try to change anything up. I do think, and you can tell me if I'm wrong here, I think you're going to see plays again that we've not seen all year again from Andy. He pulled 7 or 8 or 9 of them out of his pocket against Buffalo.
Yeah.
And was like, hey, here's something we've never shown anybody. Yeah, really ever. Good luck.
Yeah, that little diamond formation that they ran. Yeah, that was new. And y'all remember when they had Leo Chenal at fullback earlier in the season?
I do.
I do. Forget about that. Don't even worry about that.
That strikes me as a potential short yardage thing they may run out in this game, where you get a Leo Chenal as a fullback. And a little bit.
Andy's gonna break out some. The biggest thing, obviously Andy Reid being in his bag for big games like this, having multiple weeks to prepare, being very familiar with Vic Fangio's defense. I saw there was a post on X this week. I forget who put it out, but it was basically someone who was detailing kind of like all the different things that Andy Reid likes to kind of know about a defense before going into a game. There's like 20, 25 different bullet points about like every single aspect, how every position group attacks different things, personnel, formations. Like it was a really, really interesting, like in-depth
it's also
thing.
What he uses to help build his 15. So that a lot of those, it was from Honest NFL, I believe, is the
Yeah, I'm glad you remembered that. I saw that. I was like, oh my god, that is just like crazy next level thinking of
how all the stuff he uses to try to attack inside that first 15 to either get you to tell your keys for what you're going to do the rest of the game from a coverage perspective, or from line shifting, or from how you're going to play certain formations, or from how all of those things factor into how he builds that initial game script.
Yep.
And then once he has the answers to the test,
well, yeah, I mean, especially if you think about the last matchup in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, when one of the bigger plays for the Chiefs, corn dog, that hit twice, it was exploiting a defensive key that the Eagles had, where they would bump over the coverage, and that left them open. It's something that you take a lot of film study to figure out something like that and determine that's a weakness that you have to attack. So Andy Reid, he's going to be in his bag, and he's going to find whatever little weakness that the Eagles have and definitely attack that thing.
Well, I think that's where the brilliance of Andy Reid, okay, and is the complexity of what he does well, is he does a lot of shifts and motions for guys to give their hand. Another thing I'm sure he's telling Patrick also too, watch the safeties. Are they rocking and rolling? Okay. How fast are they actually trying to disguise his coverage and getting back? So they know Vic Fangio really well as far as some of his tendencies and things he does. Like you said, he's not going to come in all of a sudden and just change his defense up because he's playing Patrick Mahomes, right? You just got to play what you do well. Hopefully your pieces, your guys are better than my guys, right? Your Joe is better than my Joe. And so hopefully they're thinking the same thing we're talking about. Travis Kelce is not as fast, he's not as quick as he used to be, and maybe you could try to cover him. They're just going to go ahead and give Xavier Worthy a couple of reverses, and that's going to be it. Hollywood Brown may not be that guy. D-Hop didn't really show up during the playoffs. And so they're hoping that all the worst things that they could possibly think about somebody on the offensive side is going to be their demise. And the thing is, Andy Reid, all he's sitting over there is thinking about, I'm scoping everybody out. What I'm doing is I'm seeing what you're doing. And so off of it, right, we can make that adjustment. I'm telling you, this is 5D chess right here, fellas, is what Andy's playing.
This is advanced stuff. Yeah.
No doubt about it. And so for him, he'll run a play that he's been running in training camp we haven't seen all year, and then all of a sudden here it is, right? So that is the adjustment for Andy. When I'm talking about things this thick, right? Andy Reid comes from, I always show this. This is the West Coast offense book, okay? This is John Gruden's book that the coaching tree of Holmgren and all those guys from San Francisco and stuff, that is the iteration of what those things are. And he's an innovator for what he does now. So Andy's just, he's a savant. He really is offensively, the things he does. So he's salivating. For Andy, this thing is fun. right? I think for other coaches, man, they are really like, oh my gosh, hot around the collar like beast. Like what do you do? And he just sitting over like, man, what else can I run for? What can I do?
He's a kid in a candy store and says like this. He's like, let's do it. Yeah, he's up for that challenge. Yeah. And also that once again goes back to the conversation of like, the Eagles haven't faced anyone like this season.
No.
Haven't faced a Patrick Mahomes and they haven't faced an Andy Reid play caller. Like that's by far for like a huge difference.
And he got the pieces. That's the thing about it too. So you can't necessarily key on one guy. One week it'll be Xavier Worthy. Next week is D Hop. Next is Travis Kelce. Next thing you know, Juju's catching 3 or 4 balls. He's running up the, up the seam, right?
Yeah.
Getting caught from behind. I love Juju, but hey, he's quite got the speed. But I don't care. I'm glad he's getting 30.
We'll take it.
We'll take 2 for 60 and a bunch of really well blocked plays when he's blocking as a wide receiver because he's one of the better blockers at wide receiver that we've seen. That's the other part is the buy-in that he gets. That I do want to highlight, guys. If you're not watching on YouTube, go over to YouTube and watch just that couple of seconds that Jason put that book up. That'll show you just how much information guys have to download when they deal with an Andy Reid offense.
Yeah,
that's a full 3-ring, 3-inch binder full of everything under the sun.
It is right
that
here.
Cheesecake Factory menu that Andy has on the sideline that he calls plays from, all of it comes out of that thing right there.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to highlight that for anybody that's just listening to the audio. That'll give you an eye opener. It's like when people are like, "Hey, is Andy Reid's offense complicated?" Well, it ain't easy.
No.
And that's of course that doesn't even factor in all the stuff that they ask you to do that's not necessarily on the paper, especially with a lot of these guys now, where you're expected to make adjustments on the fly, 2 routes when you see coverages shift or when the play breaks down and you're playing schoolyard with Mahomes. Those are not in that playbook. That's all stuff that's based off of that and reps and stuff that they do in practice and work together and get used to each other. So, but from the attack perspective and the comfortability thing, I wanted to ask you this. To me, this week, this team seems loose. From all the media we've seen, from all the interviews, from the media night it seems like a really loose, really ready to go. They don't feel like they're, tight. Obviously, a lot of them have been here before, so they know what to expect. But it just seems like a different vibe, even than we've seen maybe in the last couple of years. They look loose and ready more than I think they even did in last year's or in the years prior. Is that a similar? Are you getting that same kind of vibe out of them off of all the stuff we've seen from them the first few days of this week?
I am, and I do believe it is because they have been there before. They have seen it all. For them, I've said this, and I keep saying it before. It's not really about the other team; it's about them. For them this season, that's what it's all about. And so they're kind of playing against themselves. They know the only one that's going to be able to beat them is themselves, and that's it. As long as they're making mistakes to protect the football, they should be victorious in this game. And even if they do, they're still good enough to overcome those mistakes. And so that's hard to say with a team, but sometimes when you have some of this quiet confidence, it shows. It shows how they carry themselves. Relax is another way that they're thinking about it. This is a business trip. They're enjoying this without a doubt, but they're going down with one thing in mind. Is winning this Three-Peat and setting NFL history, right? So there's no ambiguity about who's the best team this era and all those different things and okay? We're putting it front and center, let everybody know that we are the best, we are the greatest. We want everybody to understand that. I think that's why what makes them, that angers them is this whole thing with refs and all of that, man. It pisses them off the head. Like, are you kidding me? For you all to demean us and dismiss us and think it's the refs that's helping us out to win this. Well, what about everybody else had 60 minutes in the game? How's it y'all didn't overcome it? We did. We really had one loss. The other loss was because we had other guys that didn't play, right? So, hey, even then we thought our guys that was in there, I even thought that. The guys, even when we'd have everybody in there, I thought we still had a good chance against Denver. I did.
Yeah. Yep. We talked about that on this show, and then whatever that game was that game.
Exactly. You know, and
The
they was
rest
like,
of it,
okay,
yeah.
well, okay, all right, we'll deal with it, right? I'll give you your talking to and understand, like, hey, this is not our standard. Like I got up here, our standard is, our standard. That's what it has to be. So we got to understand that these guys got it right. They're there for one particular thing in the winners championship, and I had to say this too. Not only is it about the guys that's been there before, but the ones you were talking about before, the D Hops, the Kareem Hunts, they want it for those guys as well. When Travis Kelce is telling you, I want it so bad for Kareem Hunt, he means it. It's not the selfish part of him. Trav knows he's got his part in the NFL history. He understands that. He knows where he's going to be looked at and measured. But he's saying this guy right here who's been through all of this in his career. But I'm looking at a guy, D Hop, who's been everywhere. And I've seen him just go from place to place, being such a great player. But because the championship's been eluding him over these years and whatnot, people done called him washed. Why are they getting him here? And all of a sudden, and now here's a chance and opportunity. For Travis Kelce, he's playing for those guys. That's who he's playing for. We know that Patrick Mahomes is sitting over here saying, like, look, I get where I'm going to be measured against a Tom Brady. I understand that. But for me, it's about the guys who've been sitting over here that I've been trying to help out. Like Xavier Worthy, a young guy who I just seen grow game after game after game that I know is going to be a great receiver. I can see that about him. When I'm sitting there looking across on me and I see Chris Jones crying every chance that he gets because there's an emotion in him because he wants it more for those guys that's been there, who's been putting in the work, who feels like he's a big brother, right? A mentor to these young guys. And so, man, I think sometimes, man, people just don't quite realize the relationships that you build in the NFL. You know, I talk to a lot of my brothers, man, that I played with in Philly, in Kansas City, and it's just all love. When we see each other, man, it's just like we in the locker room like it was yesterday. And so you know it. You know the time and effort that you put in that you don't take for granted. You really don't, man. You really don't.
Yeah.
So these guys, they embody every bit of that, of a brotherhood, of a family. And I just love it. I love seeing it.
Yeah, it's special. It's incredibly special what the Chiefs have as far as the culture and just the support and just wanting everyone to succeed, everyone to eat. You know, it's just it's a mindset. Like once again, you just don't see it around the league very often, and that's why where we're at is a dynasty right now. Okay, real quick, we'll hop over to the other side of the ball. Talk about the defense, Steve Spagnuolo, and just all the studs over there going against a very high octane Philadelphia Eagles offense. Like we alluded to earlier, you got Saquon Barkley, who has been their main show this year. That's been their main offensive production, basically, even though you still have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert. JD, for you going into this game, you know, a similar kind of conversation as far as the defense is not going to change. Spags is not going to change really who he is. We know he, in big situations, knows exactly what to do, the pressure to send, all that good stuff. You know, what kind of matchups are you looking forward to on this side of the ball for stopping the Eagles offense? Obviously, trying to restrict Saquon Barkley, getting the Eagles into more passing situations, you know, restricting tight ends this year have had really good luck against the Chiefs defense. You have Dallas Goedert on that side, who's really good. Like, what are you kind of looking for the defense to kind of go in there and set the tone for the Super Bowl?
I'm looking for our defensive line to go against this formidable and stout offensive line. Okay. Like I said before, I'll start this one off and tell you the same thing, that the game is going to be won up front. It really is. And for our defensive line, we got to play on their line of scrimmage. Okay. Because one thing we can't do is we can't let Saquon Barkley start getting off, start running the football and hitting his head on the goalpost and getting 20 yards of carry and running over and jumping over everybody. We can't get him involved in the game. And I think what you have to do is you got to put a hat on him early and often. And I tell you what, it's got to be game tackling. He's got to come in. You got to make sure, don't leave one guy on him. Everybody's got to rally to the football and go hit him in the mouth as hard as he can. I said this on our episode, man. Look, I love Saquon Barkley. He's a hell of a talent. One of the best back in the league right now this year. I want to see him in the blue tent. I want him thinking, man, maybe I should be back up here with the Giants. It might have been a little bit easier being at home instead of coming out here in this game. So I want to see that. That's going to be the battle, is the one up front that we got to see from our D-line. And I'm not talking about from our guys that we know, the names that we already talk about, Charles Menahu, Chris Jones, a Trent McDuffie. I'm not talking about those guys. I'm talking about a Mike Dana. I'm talking about Turk Warrington. I'm talking about Mike Pinnell. Those guys we need to see. FAU. We need to see guys like that show up. We need to see guys out there who's just buying in on everything. And I know they will, but we need to see a lot from those guys. Okay, those are the unsung heroes. When you were saying, Cal, earlier about Chris Jones, getting everybody to be one-on-one. Well, you got to win your battle one-on-one. That's what it's all about. When it's between two guys, who's going to come out on top? And Chris is letting them know, I'm doing the dirty work, so you guys right here got to do your job. Destroy your man. Once you do that, man, we're going to be straight. Not to mention in that front seven, let's go to Nick Bolton, okay? Let's go Leo Chanel. Let's go to Drew Tranquil. Those guys got to have a great game. Our defensive front got to keep that offensive line off our backers. If you let those guys get off our backers, let them run and make plays, that's what we need to do, okay? Look, our linebackers are a little undersized, okay? They're scrappy, though. They're real scrappy. And they're really technically sound. They don't have to be the best in coverage. They don't have to be. But one thing I do know for sure, if you give them a chance and opportunity to make plays, they will make plays. Every single one of them. Nick Bolton, number one. Drew Tranquil, Chanel, all those guys got to be able to do it. Now, let's go to the back end of it. Same thing. We're sitting there, we're talking about how we're going to attack this offense. Our guys, corners, got to put our hands on the offensive players. Devontae Smith, little undersized, right? But he's fast. He knows how to get open. Our nickel corners are sub packets that do a great job on Devontae Smith. Where he is on the field, put your hands on as much as possible. It's almost how we watch Snead do Tyreek Hill. Well, Tyreek Hill can't beat you with your speed if you can't get off the line.
Yep.
You got to break that joker up right there immediately. If you sit there and say, I'm going to beat him up in 3 seconds, who's Jalen Hurts going to throw the ball to, right? Nope. Same thing, A.J. Brown. He's a big guy. He's reading inner piece on the sideline. Good. Find yourself. Yeah. I'm all for that, right? I'm into those books too. I love it, right? Because you got to go ahead and play. But you make sure that he has no peace whatsoever out there on the field, okay? Make sure he's back over on the other side reading a little bit more of the book. Oh, man, I miss a chapter. That's what you got to even do. So whatever that is, you got to make sure that you put your hands on him. Now, Dallas Goedert, we know he's one of the most talented tight ends out there. They got a lot better once he came back out. But here's the thing. Dallas Goedert, he ain't really going to block nobody. He can beat you in coverage. But the thing is, same thing, you put your hands on him, Jalen Hurts ain't going to have nobody to throw the ball to. He'll catch his 5 or 6, he'll look good, Yeah, he'll do all the little thing to get a little dance in. But guess what? All that's going to be for naught. It's going to be for naught. I don't care if Dallas Goedert catches 5 for 40 yards. Could care less.
Yeah.
Let's no longer the joke get to the end zone. You make sure you go ahead and get your hands on him and hat on him, all right? And make him start questioning if he wants to still play in the NFL. And so with that, our guys got to come down here. That's another thing, man, that we've been missing. I've been kind of yelling about this kind of all season. It's going to really be on our safeties, how they respond on coming down in the paint, right? Because I think we've been a little bit slow as far as reaction to what we need to be doing. Part of it is just communication. The guys got to see it, recognize, and go. Don't wait, don't hesitate. You see it, go. Yeah. You see your eyes, play what your eyes see. Play it. Shamari Connors does a great job. Hicks does a great job of things. Reed does a great job. Reed may not be the best cover safety. We know that. We understand that. But it's a heat-seeking missile. If he comes down and dislodges Saquon Barkley, if he gets off, that's what we need to see. That right there is the tone setter. He could set the tone for our defense. And so same thing with Cook. I need to see Trent McDuffie. Let him get a couple of picks. So, man, I get excited just talking about this, man. Let me calm down. But I'm just seriously, this is what we need to see from our defense. And Spaz going to have the pressure going.
Those couple of things that you mentioned. One, the Eagles don't, much like their defense doesn't blitz. They don't use motion. So you're not going to have. Devontae Smith isn't doing a whole lot of motion where he's not on the line of scrimmage and you can't put your hands on him. A.J. Brown, they're not moving him around to try to – they don't do a lot of that.
Nope.
So there's some stylistic things of this that kind of feed into what Spags has shown that he will do in a lot of these scenarios that I think set up quite well for this defense.
That's right.
For me, it's going to come down to can you get pressure, whether it's with 4 or if with 5. That Jalen has shown he's not a big fan of the blitz. A lot of his answers are throw it up to AJ Brown and hope he comes down with it, or throw it up to Dallas Goedert and hope he comes down with it.
Yeah.
So if you can create pressure and if you tackle, you have a really good shot to win this football game as a defense and not let that Eagles offense get off and get running. The tackling, coming downhill, making the reads, making the plays, and you talked about rally and tackle, but also if you end up one-on-one in space, you have to make a play.
That's right.
You have to make the tackle. You can't whiff. You can't give up the runs from Saquon that have hurt teams all year are the 60 or 70-yard hit your head on the goalpost touchdown run.
That's it. And it's missed tackles. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's missed tackles.
Very poor
It's
tackling.
making people missing space. That's why everybody's got to rally to the football, right?
Yeah.
If he starts to break out, everybody needs to understand, man, surround this guy, come in and hit him, hold him up for somebody else to go ahead and clean him up. And so that is imperative. It's vital to what you have to do defensively.
Yeah.
And so the thing is, what I like about that, because you just kind of talking about it, when they don't move and you line the guy up, but now all of a sudden you don't show blitz and come late. But when you come late, you make sure you bring hell with you. That's what you do. So now Saquon Barkley might be getting the pitch or the you make sure you just lodge it. Hit that sucker.
Yeah.
You make sure you hit him. And so this is it, man. Gentlemen, this is for all the marbles. This is what this thing is all about.
Yeah, big moment. We've seen Spags, he knows exactly how to send them. You look at last Super Bowl where it's like that there's a lot of guys who were doing a lot of nitty-gritty stuff that were very key in shutting down Christian McCaffrey and Mike Pennell and Leo Chenal and Derek Nottie and all these Mike Dana. It's a buy-in from everybody, from the entire defense. And Spags has talked ad nauseum about how good this defense is this year and how he's got a bunch of guys who could all have the green dot, which how smart they are and all that different things. It's just a different mindset. And they're no strangers to really good offenses. And, I've said, I think the best offense they played was last week versus the Bills. So if you can handle them, and also the other thing of bend, don't break, which has been the defense's motto for a lot of the season. Where you can allow the yards and all that stuff. If they want to have a bunch of big flashy yards, that's cool, but once you get into that red zone, once you get into those key areas, that's when the big decisions have to be made, where Spags typically, it seems, comes out on top most of those times and dominates where he needs to and holds them to field goals or blocked field goals, which happens very often, which is pretty surreal. It's going to be a great matchup. Once again, seeing Spags cook up in the Super Bowl, who is the best Super Bowl defensive coordinator, probably the best defensive coordinator in NFL history at this point. It's going to be cemented as something like that. So
keep him out of 4th and short. That's my other thing is push. Keep him out of 4th and short. And I know we did find and did a bunch of nice things against Josh, and then with that attempt at that, Philly does it a lot different, and they're a lot more efficient with it. Right. If you can keep them in 3rd and long and 4th and medium, it eliminates that extra down from their game that they use all the time.
Yeah.
So keep them out of 4th and short. I only have one more question for JD. I know we're about at the hour mark now. So, the us against the world mentality. We used to make fun of New England a lot of the time for it because they would do the whole nobody believes in us, nobody. And I that's one thing. I have developed more empathy for the Patriots fan base and the Patriots players than I ever in my life thought I would ever, based on the stuff that they used to do and deal with and all that. And we'll be honest, it's not even the same thing because some of the stuff they did was actually problematic.
They were actually cheating. I mean, there
was actually problematic things done there. Yeah. But a lot of the mindsets and a lot of the mentality stuff and a lot of the things that the players were saying and doing and the outside noise, that us against the world mentality, does that benefit this team? Because I feel like it does, but I'm just curious from a player's perspective of when you got everybody telling you, you shouldn't have done this or this shouldn't have happened and you got this benefit and you're the help and you get all and then I saw today 21 of 22 states that BetMGM operates in, the Eagles are the team that's been bet the most to win, and so on and so forth, which I find hilarious, seeing as how everybody online has told us for the last 2 months that the stuff's rigged. If it's rigged, why are you betting against the
Bet
team
on
it's
them,
rigged
man.
for?
Yeah, make some money off of it, huh?
Jeez, right. If
Put your money where your mouth is. Yeah.
But is that against the world thing a benefit to this team? I know it's probably they don't really necessarily need extra, but always nice to have stuff to pull from, right?
Absolutely. And I do believe that is a factor. It's one of those incentives because they're sitting there saying, man, look what they're saying about us. Look, nobody wants to give us credit for the things that we've done. So what do? We go out here and beat this team down. That's what we need to do. To send a message, let everybody know there's nothing out here that's rigged. Like you said, for New England, we know it was problematic, right? Deflate gate, tuck rule. I mean, Bill Belichick still in plays, doing videos on
all that
know
stuff.
that, right? We understand that, okay? And he made no bones about it. He's like, yeah, I kind of did it, right? Because it was allowed. He tried to validate what he was doing. Like, no, that's cheating, Bill. That's cheating.
That's just straight cheating. Yeah.
So, and with these guys, we don't really see no controversy like that. People bring up, obviously, the refs, and I think for them, that's one thing that does piss them off. But you can't worry about it. The main thing is still the main thing. We got to play within our game. We can't worry about what people saying about the refs. We can't be like, oh, my gosh, refs again. What I do, hide your head. No, Look, we go full board. You can't worry about it. People's going to hate you. They ain't going to love you. That's fine. Okay? That's fine. But you have to worry about the ones that do love you, that do support you. Okay? And I'll say this. We're playing for now for the Swifties, for the people that just became fans. We're playing for them. Right? Bring them on into the kingdom. Fine.
Join the fun.
Join the fun. Join the family. Water's fine. Come on in. And so when you start having a fan base of people that do support you, those are the ones you got to look at. Those are the ones that's going to celebrate you. And so it's good to have that, right? It's good to have that, but don't let that get you out of sorts. Don't let that get you out of sorts. The only time I've ever seen Patrick Mahomes get out of sorts was that Bills game. That was it. The one that they called Tony offsides. That was it. Yeah. And when he got that way, he couldn't even think about the next play. He was so pissed off that he was out of sorts that he was like, hey, man, you still got a chance to win this game, an opportunity. And it just threw him discombobulated. And I think he learned from that. I think he understood, like, look, you know what? I still got to play within the frame that I'm playing. Okay? I could be pissed off at certain things, but for me, my focus is take care of these guys. That's it. Bottom line is NFL history. It's not about what they do. It's all about us and what we do. So I think that mentality, like us against the world, absolutely. They understand they're in a bubble, and it's okay to be that. It's have that fortress of solitude of those guys in there that everybody's bowled up like, look, we know what this thing is all about. All right? We know what it's all about, what we came here to do. We playing for a man beside you, in front of you. That's what we're doing. We got each other's back. It's us against the world, and we got down the NFL history. And the only one that's stopping us from doing it is the Eagles right now. That's it. We got to run through that.
That's the last obstacle of the season for the Chiefs.
One to go.
To history. Yep. So that's all we've got for you tonight, man. Jason, once again, cannot appreciate you enough for coming on, and thank you for just all the support and graciousness and friendliness you've given to us, man. You're the best. For everyone who's watching and who doesn't follow Jason or all that, Jason, tell them where you can find you and all your content over there.
Hey, man, look, we on Chief Concerns. Come check us out, man. You find us on Twitter, X, and we're on Apple, Spotify. You'll find us on YouTube. You'll see some good content, man. We bring all the funk, all the nastiness, all the heat, the fire, and all the goodness, all rolled into one. And so, get a chance, come check us out. This is what we do. That's what we do, man. And we support our guys out here, Garrett Wilson and Kyle, and Tom and all those guys, everybody here who's doing some great things with their content as well. So we're all a big family. That's the way I look at it, man. We all support one another. So appreciate you, gentlemen, man, for your graciousness too. Okay. And I thank you and commend you for all the work that you've been doing. So
we appreciate you. Thank you again, man, for coming on Chiefs Kingdom.
Yeah.
You got what? By the time you guys see this, it'll be about 68 hours, a little less before it's time for it to kick off.
Yeah.
We will see you guys. If you're watching this Friday morning, we will see you Friday night for our live, because we will be live tomorrow night.
The last talk that we'll have before the big game, it'll be Friday night. We got another couple special guests join us for that night. It's going to be a real fun time. Be sure to follow us at Kingdom Says Pod on X, on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We're on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcast from. We'll be there, and we'll be rocking with you all the way until this thing's over. So we appreciate everyone this season rocking with us and tuning in and just being along for the crazy, crazy ride that it is being a Chiefs fan. I say this, I feel like I always love saying this at the end of podcasts, like, just we're in the golden era of Chiefs, like we always have to appreciate that, the famous Office quote, you don't know when you're in the good times until it's gone. We know that we're in the good times right now. We have to definitely appreciate this. This is stuff that we're going to look back on 20, 30 years from now and be like, man, that was crazy stuff going on. And it's all going to be rounded out, hopefully, with the three-peat on the way on Sunday. So with that, thank you all for tuning in, listening, watching, and we will see you guys on Friday on the next episode of The Kingdom Says.